Welcome back, everyone. I'm Shannon from Pish Posh Reselling, and today we're talking about Ruby Lane again. So we're working on part 2 now. We're going to talk about opening up a shop on Ruby Lane and doing your first listings, which is kind of all the same type of process because Ruby Lane has an approval process, and so you need to make 10 listings for them to take a look at before your shop is officially open. So like we talked about last week, and if you're new here, I did a part 1 that you might want to check out first. It was a part 1 about not just opening a shop, but basically what Ruby Lane is. I find a lot of people are not terribly familiar with the selling site, and so we went over just kind of a tour of the site itself, and we talked about the costs, and we talked about the history and the customer base just a little bit. And mostly I find people had some misconceptions about Ruby Lane as a site, and so we addressed a lot of those. So this part 2 is more about the nuts and bolts, about making a listing and things like that. So we're gonna go into, I'm gonna switch this to a screen share in a bit, and we're gonna look at some information that's available right on the site. And then also we'll just go ahead and you can list something with me. So I have something I can put up there, and you can see how the listing process is and how simple it is and some of the ins and outs of making a listing on Ruby Lane. So there was just one other thing because the question came up after the last video about a referral credit. There's no referral system right now on Ruby Lane. There had been in the past. And this kind of demonstrates how good the customer service is on Ruby Lane as well, because I've only had to reach out to Ruby Lane customer service a couple times, and each time it was that you get an answer back very quickly. So a question had come up because someone had asked me about the whether I had a link or a referral, thing, because as she was signing up to sell on Ruby Lane, there was a question in it about what shop. So what shop we'd like to give credit to whoever referred you to us. And so she kept trying to put my shop name, Pish Posh Vintage, she kept trying to put that in, and it kept rejecting it or saying I didn't exist or shop not found. And so she had told me about it, and I was like, oh, don't worry about it. There is no referral program. They ended that a while back. And so we didn't think anything more of it. And then yesterday I got an email from Ruby Lane saying I was getting referral credit. And I thought, okay, that's strange, because I was pretty sure they had ended that program. So I sent an email to Ruby Lane and customer service, and I just asked, I'm kind of confused, and I explained, and I said, and if this is a glitch or something's happening, then it's kind of confusing because people are asked to answer that question in the sign-up process. So I sent it off, and maybe an hour or two later, I got an answer back, and they said, oh, we're so sorry. Please disregard that email. We did discontinue the referral program. So I wrote back again, and I just explained that I kind of felt it was confusing to people signing up and maybe not necessarily a good first impression. And, is there any way to take that part of the sign-up process out? And so I got an answer back quicker this time, and they said that they went ahead and sent it to the technical team for them to remove that part out of the sign-up process. So it was good. It was very responsive. Probably something that, honestly could have been addressed earlier. Maybe it hadn't come up. I find that hard to believe, or just people just ignored it and glossed over it. No selling platform is going to be perfect. There's going to be all sorts of issues on each one. but we all just do the best we can when we're reselling, right? You do the best with the platforms that you've chosen. So anyway, I just wanted to share with that. So they should be removing that from the sign up process. They may have removed it by the time you sign up, or maybe it's still there. I don't know how quickly the technical team addresses these things. And so if it's there, you can just ignore that part and move on. Okay, so I just wanted to clear that up. So I wanted to, I think on the last video, I forgot to say in the video, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And then if you have any comments, let me know if you signed up for Ruby Lane, or let me know if it just looked like it wasn't for you, you know, like just your feedback on the site itself, or even on the information. Today's listing, it's kind of tricky because I can't really sign up a new shop. So I'm kind of going on memory about the sign up and some of the information that's on the site. So we'll do our best to get through this, and hopefully you have no problem when you go to do it yourself. I'd shared my first video with a couple groups on Facebook who were resellers, and a couple of people signed up already and got their shops approved and open, and one person even came back and said that she had a sale already. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, about an interesting feature, which I may have actually even mentioned in the first video, about how newly listed items can get promoted. So I'll mention it again in this video and show it to you again, just to cover that, just in case. So if you, this is the second Ruby Lane video. I will probably do a couple more in the future. Maybe another one just about some of the different features, the ways to promote, the ways to, what you should be doing to kind of take advantage of the promotions that Ruby Lane offers, and maybe sale events, and just kind of explain some of those features in another video. And then of course, I'll always share the items that I'm selling on Ruby Lane, either in my what sold videos in general, or possibly separate videos going forward. We'll have to see how things play out in that way. But in any case, there will be more Ruby Lane content coming, as well as many other subjects about reselling. And so feel free to hit that subscribe button, and feel free to share this Ruby Lane series with anyone that you think might be interested in it. And that definitely helps my little channel to grow. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll switch over to screen sharing and we can take a look at opening a shop. Thanks. At rubylane.com, and I'm going to start off on this page with an FAQ, the FAQ knowledge base. You can see it was under the help desk, there's the knowledge base, and then under that shop owners, and there's a list of pre-open questions. So if any of these questions are something that you wondered about, I'm going to look at right now, what is the pre-opening checklist and how important is it? So it's basically, like I have said before, your shop needs to be approved in order to, for you to sell on Ruby Lane. And this really works to everybody's benefit, because it keeps the site very curated, and it keeps the site full of actual vintage goods, and not fake vintage goods that tend to work their way into most sites these days. So there's a checklist to follow before you request to open. So, and it's just basic kind of thing. So if you just go through it, they want to know that you've done the terms of use, that you've looked at what the requirements are for each lane or category. The items that you've listed, they meet the lane requirements, that you're not selling fakes or reproductions. Then your pictures, they want to make sure you have good quality pictures, that the whole item is in view, it's in focus, that flaws are shown. Jewelry has a requirement to show front and back, and marks need to be shown. You've got good words, good titles, keywords, complete descriptions, your shop name, and that you filled out your shipping policy, service pledge, layaway plan, all that kind of stuff. And I will show you the shop info page and where you can find that. And then you proofread for spelling errors and things like that. So you go ahead and you review all that checklist. And I guess if I remember, it was questions. And you make sure that's all done before you request to open your shop. Okay, so now this next section, I was just going to show you, this is the shop owner's home. And I'm hoping this is something that's available to you. If I'm assuming that if you've gotten this far, that you've at least signed into the site as a like you have an account with the site and you're wanting to open. So shop owner's home, if you go all the way down to the bottom, it's kind of like the how to contact Ruby Lane. There's the FAQ knowledge base, but then right here, there's tutorials for shop owners. So I'm hoping this is not something that's only available once you have a shop, because that wouldn't make any sense to only have this information once your shop is open. But it seems to be buried a bit, and I wonder if it's because some of the information in it is outdated because they updated the pricing. So I'm kind of curious about that. But in any case, I'll show you what it says here, and you can always refer back to this. So down here, there's tutorials for shop owners and prospective shop owners. And so here's one, show how to set up shop. So let's go there. And it's actually something you can print, but let's get it bigger. And then, well, not too big. Okay. So how do I open a Ruby Lane shop? Part 1 of 3. So it tells you where to click on the home page. You hit join Ruby Lane. They want you to review the things that you can sell, which we talked about last week. And so here's, if you've registered already on Ruby Lane, you can convert that account to a shop owner account, or you can make a separate shop owner account, or you can cancel the current one and just start all over again. So there's information here on how to do that. Okay, so you're converting, one of them's converting, one's registering, and one's that third option. So it gives you your vendor agreement. Now, I don't know how long ago they made these little tutorials, so I'm hoping it looks somewhat similar. They want your business name, if you have one, your name, it's just legal information, your address doesn't have to be, your address doesn't, it's not going to be visible. And then I believe this is the same. I know they do have, yeah, I had to put in a credit card because there are selling fees. So you can pay your selling fees with this credit card. But at this point, the credit card, I believe, is just for validating your account. And then you submit that, and that's the first section. So you kind of have your checklist of things to do, and that is the first section, getting all of that set up. Okay, so then it moves on to part 2, and all of these pages can be printed. So it does look like they updated a little bit recently. Something, I don't know. Okay, so let's go to step 2. Okay, same thing. Let's see, let's get a little bit bigger so you can see it. Okay, so what they want you to do now is just work on adding 10 items. Okay, so the 10 items, you just go ahead and do them as listings, and then they'll review your 10 listings to make sure that they measure up to what they're expecting. And they don't really expect too much. Honestly, they expect what we should be doing on all platforms, right? Okay, so you can give it an item ID if you want. So this is hitting the add item button. You can put your own number in. When I do it, it's pre-populated with a number, and I feel like it was already there, and I just use the one that they have. And yeah, because I don't really care. And then you can add photos here, but you don't add photos directly here. Okay, it says first you need to go, your photos all get put in the image gallery first, and then when you're making your listing, you're pulling your pictures from that image gallery. So I will show you that in a bit, and we will talk about that. So here's, if you want to, you can click there. If you can find this on your screen, there's information about uploading images, and maybe we'll come back to that. We'll see. Okay. So then the listing has add your item title. You choose your category, subcategories. So like I said, we're going to list an item together, and so you can see this in real time, what it really looks like. So this is just the listing page, and I'm just giving you an idea of what that listing page kind of looks like. You fill in your description in that paragraph. You've got other non-searchable information, which is just an optional thing. Like, in other words, this would be a good place to put, like, if you think an item can be attributed to a certain maker, but you can't prove it, you shouldn't put that information in the description because that's searchable. You put it here so it's readable, but people who are searching for like the authentic items and the confirmed items by that person won't come up with yours, but it's just information you're giving to the prospective buyer. And so this avoids what we call keyword spamming. So people can't just put in, you know, all sorts of brand names attached to an item if it's not a confirmed thing for that, you know, if it's not a confirmed maker for that piece. The global trade item number doesn't usually apply to anything. I don't ever use it. So you put your quantity, you put your condition. Used is usually what we're dealing with. You go ahead and put your price. You can put your original price, as in you put the price that like you're listing it at, and so then later if you run a sale, then this price will show as crossed out when you're offering a discount. And then number 5 here is just for your own records. If you want to put your cost of goods for that item right there, you can. You can choose to use make an offer or let customers make offers to you. And then you can set up your shipping, domestic and international. You put in your weight, you put in the size of it, put in the dimensions. If you've set up any kind of shipping discounts, you can do that. And then there's insurance for domestic or international. You can decide how you want to do that. If you want to put insurance on it that the buyer can pay for, you can charge it there, but then you could make it so that the buyer declines insurance, so they can choose whether or not to pay it. Then here, as you're making the listing, you can either go ahead and have the item go into your shop or what's called the back room. And so that's basically, the back room is like drafts. So any item that's not ready to be listed yet can go in the back room. And show the price as regular price. I'll have to take a look at that when I do a listing, what the other options are there. Possibly you can start off with a sale price right away. I don't know. And then what next? So this kind of lets you decide what you want to do. Like if, say, an item, you can pick from the drop-down menu what next after 5 years, or, you know, say after 1 year and 100 people or 500 people have looked at it, you know, or 500 people have looked at it and it hasn't sold, you can either just leave it in your shop, you can make it go to the back room, or you could drop the price, say, okay, after a year, drop the price 10%, or after 6 months, drop the price 10%. And then you can decide, I think, whether you want that to show as a discount. I think that's what that's talking about. And, or like this one, you just, you know what, after this time, after unlimited years, unlimited views, keep it in this shop, keep it the same price. And, you know, basically you can make it so that nothing changes with the listing at all. And so then you click add item. So in the setup process, this will just go into kind of like, you know, it's not visible, but it's added to your shop until your shop then is approved and visible to everybody. So I'm not going to go to open a shop at this point because the next step I looked at it and it was just talking about the fee structure that doesn't apply anymore. So we're not gonna look at that anymore. But I think what we'll do, maybe we'll go back up. Let's talk about pictures for a second. Let's see what this is talking about. Well, if you want to go through there, I'll let you do that on your own. I'll just show you personally in my own store how things are working. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. This was the knowledge base. Okay. Oop, I'm probably deleting stuff I shouldn't be. Okay, shopping from, okay. So let's talk about pictures for a second because that will help. Let's go to image gallery. So your little house right here, my shop, manage items, you can go to image gallery there. And here's your image gallery. So you're getting ready to list. There's a couple different ways you can do this, okay? So we're going into the image gallery. Right here you hit plus images and you can, from there you're just going to be pulling pictures off your computer or off your phone. What I do is there's no Ruby Lane app, but I just go, I'm signed in on the browser to Ruby Lane, and I just go to the image gallery and I just add the pictures from my phone, just like I'm doing it on this screen. It's just in my phone. So here's the images I uploaded. I uploaded a bunch of these yesterday. And so these are all ready to go. These are items that I have not listed yet. So as you go further down, okay, I didn't list that one yet. Haven't listed this little tape dispenser because I can't find it. I took pictures and then we moved. And I remember seeing it in the move, but now I can't lay hands on it, so I don't want to list it until I find it again. And so some of these are just older. You can see I took the pictures a while back. And some odds and ends of pictures I ended up not using in the listing are still here. But once you use the pictures in a listing, they leave your image gallery. They don't stay here. Okay, so I took all these pictures yesterday to be ready to list today. And so what you do once you upload the images, now these are already done, so I'll just have to explain this, but all the pictures are in, and then you pick the one picture that you want to be your main photo. And that photo gets sent to you. You choose it, and then you click right here, which I can't right now because it's already been done, and I don't want to send another one. But you click it to AIP, so that's Advanced Image Processing. And so you can see this little green circle right here. I had chosen this photo to be my main photo. I sent it to AIP. And then it gets approved, or it gets processed, and this is what it looks like. It's got a white background. So the very first photo of your listing, your main listing photo, is required to be processed this way and have the background removed. Now they do that for you for free. Now say I wanted to have the background removed on this one. I could also send that picture to AIP and they would do it. It would cost 19 cents. So the first one is free. All the pictures after that are 19 cents a piece. So as you can see, obviously I don't bother doing that. Okay, so if I go, so I send these, it usually takes overnight in order to get those pictures processed. So if I'm working and I am working ahead, I take a bunch of pictures, I get them uploaded, I send my pictures to AIP, and now today I have a bunch that are ready to go. So once it goes to AIP and it gets processed, sometimes it doesn't come out quite right. So what you can do, let me see what this says. I already looked at the alert, so that's why it's not here. I go to AIP, and this is where you can see the ones that are in process or what status that they're at. So I have, I think 24 hours, is it 24 hours? I think it comes up later, so we'll look at that. But you have a certain amount of time to approve the image. So sometimes things don't quite come out right. Now these all look fine, but I've had things happen where like maybe part of an earring, like it was necklace and earrings, and they only they removed the background for the necklace and they removed the earrings as well. And so I had to send it back in and have them do it again. And it's usually done pretty quickly. So what I'll do is I'll approve all these right now. So you can approve. See, you can approve or reject. Okay, review now. I'll just approve that one. I'll just do a couple. Let's see, approve. And which other one? Let's do this one for now. Just so you don't have to watch me do all these things. Okay, so when you go back to, let's see, image gallery. Okay, so nothing's different here, but so this is where you're going to be pulling then your pictures from when you're making the listing. And I'll talk about, as I make a listing, I'm going to talk about this whole AIP thing and another option that you have. If you don't get your pictures done like a day ahead of time, can you still list? And I'll explain that as we get into that next section. A little section here before we actually get into doing a list with me kind of thing. As you're setting up your shop, at some point, like I said, I'm not too clear exactly where this part all falls in the whole sign up process, but I thought I'd mention they're going to want you to fill out your shop information, which totally makes sense. And this is probably done right before you're asked to asked to list the 10 items, or it's part of the 10 item listing process. It's somewhere in there. So I just wanted to show you. So again, in my shop, this is where you can access this information or these settings later if you ever need to change anything. So you go to my shop, you drop down. If you remember, shop owner's home is your kind of like your links to everything, managing your items, and then you go a little further down and here's shop information. So that's kind of like your account settings type thing. And so you can take a look at mine. So shop information, I made sure I removed some personal information before I'm sharing this all with you. But this is where you can add your logo image. This is where your shop name gets put. This is your tagline. And then you can do a little intro or promo message that shows up underneath. Here, let's go on another one. View my shop. So you can see the little intro messages right here under your name and banner or your little logo. You put your little intro, it's a description of your shop kind of thing. Or if you have a sale or something going on that you want to announce. There's an about you and your shop paragraph that you can fill in. You could put your own personal name, not just your shop name. You can have your shop email. You can have you have your address. Now you have an option here to just have your address attached to your what's the name, profile, or you can have it that they have to ask you for your address, or when a person actually becomes a buyer, then your address is available. So then you have your address, phone number is optional, fax number, blah, blah, blah. You could have a message that when someone sends you a message, they get a kind of an automated response. And, then you can respond to them however you need to. You can put in your cell number and get texts as far as, like it says, you can get a notification about open orders or offers or questions. I believe this is coming from Ruby Lane themselves. Like you can get a text when you have a sale or something like that. There's a place to add your Facebook page, Skype, and your PayPal payment method. This is where you would be registering for PayPal. Like I said, it has to be a business account. So I remember when I set up my Ruby Lane shop, I thought I had a PayPal business account and I didn't. And so it took a little bit to get that set up, and I was having more problems with PayPal, not Ruby Lane. And the problems resolved when I switched browsers. So I'm just throwing that out there. I was setting up on Chrome, I believe, and I switched to Safari, and it ended up being anyway, it ended up working just fine on the other browser. So that's always something to keep in mind. You can accept other offline payment methods, and this is what they need to make it payable to and where to send it to. And like I mentioned in the last video, the return policy is site-wide, and like I said, it's basically all set up by Ruby Lane, and you don't have to worry about it at all. You can throw in some information here about shipping, like if you have a handling charge or something like that. You can set up a restocking fee. You can make a service pledge about how fast you respond to orders or how fast you ship, anything like that, if you want to throw that in there. You can offer a layaway plan. There's a spot for any other information that you want to mention, and a section about sales tax in the state you're living in. Now these are optional shipping things. I haven't set any of these up because I do a mix of fixed price shipping and calculated, and my items are so all over the place as far as size and weight and everything. So I could do calculated for everything, but because I use Pirate Ship for my shipping, then I can get a little bit of a discount. And so I think certain things in first class and priority mail are kind of overcharged to the customer when you do calculated. And so I kind of, on certain items, I know how much it's going to cost me, and I can set my shipping price to kind of match that. And it seems more palatable to the buyer. So it's really hard to set up any kind of discount for when people buy more than one item. So I'll show you later how I handle that. Then here's the advanced image processing. Now this is good. We talked about this already, because then you can see what your choices are. So once you send your image into processing and it gets processed, you can decide to have it auto accepted, right? So I have that turned on. So what that does is whenever the image is fully processed, I automatically approve it, and it's okay to use and to be in my listing. Okay, so here I said 24 hours. It's 7 days. You have a week. Even though it's been accepted, you still have a week to request that it get reprocessed. Okay, so your other option, if you turn that off, then you have to manually accept all those images before it can be like in a live listing. And it says after 7 days, if you haven't done anything, they just automatically accept it. So I just go ahead and leave that on because there's a different reason for that. Okay. So this one is just inside your shop, show AIP. So the other option is you can have them show the AIP and the original photo. So you could have the one with like the gray background like I have and show the processed one. Or inside your shop, you can choose to show just your original photo. The AIP ones will be whenever Ruby Lane puts your item on another page in the site or promotes it anywhere, it's always going to have its background removed. So I just leave it as AIP. It's fine. So now you have a couple options here. So if you're listing a new item, you can have the item show up inside your shop and then like it's there. Okay, let me go backwards. Okay, so the other option, which maybe it's easier to see on a listing, but I don't know that I have any examples right now. If like I was saying, if your pictures ahead of time, if you weren't prepped ahead of time to have your pictures sent in to image processing and you didn't get to do that a day ahead of time, and you sit down and you're like, I really want to list something on Ruby Lane right now, what you can do is you can go ahead, you put your pictures into the image gallery, you make your listing, you put the picture you want to be your first picture, just as the first one in your listing, and then you go ahead, if you have it set to show new items immediately, it will publish the listing within your shop, but it won't be promoted into other parts of Ruby Lane until that image is processed. So like it says here, after an item is added, if you choose this, show new items immediately. After an item is added, show the item inside your shop immediately. Then once processing has finished, it will show the item everywhere else on Ruby Lane as today's arrivals. So I think I showed you that in the first video, that today's arrivals section. So when an item's image is processed, then that image will show up in today's arrivals. But before that, it's only in your shop. That's the only person it's visible to. Or if you promote or direct traffic directly to it, people will see it. But within 24 hours, that picture will be processed and it will end up in today's arrivals. Okay, so they're considered today's arrivals starting from the time that processing is accepted. So another option is to wait. You can make the listing, you add the item. Once the processing is complete, it's just kind of in your back room. Nobody can see it. And then as soon as that first image is processed, then it will show up in your shop and it'll show up in today's arrivals on Ruby Lane, on the main section of Ruby Lane. So I just have it as show new items immediately. Sometimes I am not prepared ahead of time with pictures. And so I just go ahead and list. It's in my shop. I go ahead and promote it to Pinterest or somewhere like that. And it's fine. And then within the next day or so, it'll show up, in the today's arrivals. Okay, I'm not going to hit update because I had changed my address on here. But let's see. So there's not really... there's not really a good or bad way to do that. So let me show you the today's arrivals again. So that's under shop. Here's today's arrivals. And this is the reason today's arrivals are so important. Okay, it always shows up as best match, but we'll go ahead and switch it to most recent. So make a listing, it should show up here, within a few minutes. If the image is processed, as you can see, everybody's listing, on this page has that background removed. And what's important to know about today's arrivals is that there are many customers who check this daily. So there are many times where you list an item, if the image is already processed and you list it and it goes straight to today's arrivals, sometimes your sale happens within a couple minutes. Sometimes your image gets processed sometime in the middle of the night. And so I wake up and someone has bought that item because it showed up in today's arrivals. So there are a lot of customers who keep an eye on what are the new things being added to Ruby Lane today. Okay, so that's a really nice feature. It's one of my favorite things about the site. And like we said, we have a nice small, it's an audience that's very loyal and they just would like to keep purchasing on Ruby Lane. And so they keep an eye on what's new that comes out. Okay. And so there was, where did it go? There's today's arrivals and this week's arrivals. So the whole week is there as well. So that's kind of a neat feature. So that's just something to keep in mind with your photos. Like you don't necessarily have to, you can do it different ways. And I do it all different ways. So like this Dymo I listed the other day, and it just sat here with the gray background until the image was processed overnight. And then it switched to this white background. And at that point, it went to new arrivals or today's arrivals. So, yeah, it's just your workflow and how you feel comfortable with how you want to do it. Okay, this is Editing Shannon. I just wanted to pop in something I totally forgot to mention. I was editing the video and just watched the whole thing and the whole process, and one thing I realized I forgot to mention. So there is a shipping wizard on Ruby Lane. It will calculate shipping for you if you put in dimensions and weight and such things as necessary. There's a shipping wizard, but you cannot print labels from Ruby Lane. So you have to use a third-party shipping service. You could ship from PayPal, you could ship from, I personally use Pirate Ship. And then I just go ahead and copy and paste the tracking number. And I go back into Ruby Lane, I go to the purchase order, and there's a place to update tracking information. You pop that in there, that marks it as shipped. So you just have to use another service, and Pirate Ship is probably the easiest and the cheapest one that I know of. So I just needed to clarify that. I realized I didn't really mention it anywhere, and it can be kind of confusing because it does allow you to calculate shipping, just not to print the shipping label. Okay, I've got dinner on the stove and I better go run back and check on that. So I gotta go. Bye. A listing to my shop. And I'll try to do this quickly. I know this video has probably gotten pretty long. What I'll try to do is at a point I will, in the description of this video, I will try to add some timestamps. And so you can jump to different sections a little bit easier. So you go to your little house and you hit add items. You can see we've got our listing page here. So item ID, so like it says RL678, this is just the inventory number. And they started that number. I might have started it at like 110 or something like that, just to be different. And I can't even remember at this point. But Ruby Lane generates that number. But if you have your own system that you'd like to do, then for sure you can do that. So let's see, which one do we want to do? I think we will go ahead and list the mushroom. I think we're going to do that. So that's my first one. And then we'll do a side, a back, a side, a top, a bottom, and a signature. We'll attach that. So there they are. Nice editing that they do on your main one. Okay, so this is a mushroom earring holder. Very 70s. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to use the word vintage. So as you can see, some of your all your other titles pop up. You know, if you're going to do something similar, you can just kind of pick one and then edit. But I'm just going to go vintage 1970s. And then the brand of this is Torino. And then I'm going to say mushroom, or maybe I should say toadstool. I'll stick with mushroom at first because mushroom is super popular right now. So we'll say vintage 1970s Torino mushroom earring holder, gold tone, and then I'll say toadstool. And actually there's a snail on there too. So we'll just throw the word snail in there. We come down to the category. Now this might be tricky. So okay, so it looks like vanity items, accessories. It suggests like one of your existing inventory items. So I think in the past I had listed a poodle one, or someone else did. No, I think it was me. Okay, so I think I had sold, because sometimes it was suggesting, in the past, it had been suggesting other people's categories, and that was really confusing. But this one is using one from your existing inventory. So we could do that, except then it adds on the whole name, and we don't want to add on that whole name because it's not a poodle, it's a mushroom. But that gives me an idea that I would find something like this under vanity items. So I'm going to switch over to Ruby Lanes, and they suggest vanity items as well. And the only subcategory is compacts, and so we're just going to leave that blank. Okay, here, additional qualifiers, it's optional. Like I could put vanity items, jewelry storage, or earring holder or something like that, but I'm not going to have a billion of these to set up a whole little section. And I guess it's a way to get more keywords out there as Google searches, but I'm just going to leave it as is, vanity. Now filters, this is actually for this type of item, it's very short. I probably should have demonstrated listing a jewelry item because the filters are a lot longer. But for this one, it's just color, which is optional. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick gold. And then item type you have to fill out, and I'm calling that vintage. Okay. So then I will just go ahead and fill out a description, and I will say vintage 1970s figural earring holder by Torino in the shape of mushrooms or toadstools. This pierced earring holder measures about 5.5 inches tall and roughly 4 inches wide. This adorable jewelry storage item is gold tone and is in good vintage condition with some signs of age and use. Okay. I want to mention the sale. The largest toadstool also features a snail. Okay. And then you can put kind of trendy keywords. I would just kind of work them in. Like, I'm not going to go all goblin core and like all the types of words that that people use like for Depop or anything like that. I kind of just stay very straightforward. So the little suggestions right here are condition, dimension, size, markings, age, history, whatever. All these keywords get searched, and the listings are optimized for Google. So Ruby Lane has no problem with Google directing a sale, people finding something on Google and coming to their shop. They don't penalize sellers for that happening, like what's been happening lately on Etsy when they have these added fees that if your item comes from Google, then it costs so much more in fees. That's been a big complaint, I know, with Etsy sellers. So this is optimized for Google. Google finds the items easily, and a lot of times sales come that way. So I just kind of keep it basic. I keep the information, and so far it seems to work okay. Now, again, I mentioned that non-searchable information. So I have a few that just kind of get auto-saved. So I click that one, and that basically says to feel free to ask any questions. I ship the next day after payment, except weekends and holidays. Now, here's what I do for shipping. If you're purchasing more than one item, let me see if I can get over. I will combine shipping and give you the best possible price on your purchase order, I think is what it says. On your purchase order. Okay. So I think I had another one that one of these saved ones for a while I was doing. So basically, if a person bought more than one item, it opens a purchase order. So each sale goes into a purchase order. And what I've had people do is either go ahead and pay and then I refund the difference, or they open the purchase order and then they don't pay. I go in, adjust the purchase order to reflect the combined shipping, and then let them know. And Ruby Lane lets them know as well that the purchase order was amended. And then sometimes I send a message as well. And so then they go ahead and pay. Okay, so then there's that GTIN and the quantity, condition, use, that kind of stays the same. So for a price for this, I looked on eBay and they were going like $12, $15. I think we need to go a little bit higher than that. They're a little bit higher on Etsy. So I think we want to split the difference. And I'm going to go ahead and do 17. And I don't fill out this or my cost or anything like that. I don't generally do make offer at this point. Now my domestic shipping, it's just kind of saved from the last listing I did. So that works out good. First class package service. This was from the item before, so it was fixed. Let's see. This only weighs 5. And I would say it would be about 8 to 10 ounces packed up. So we could probably do $4.99 shipping on that. And then international shipping. Right now, I'm only shipping to Canada. I've done worldwide in the past, but I don't know. I was just kind of coming into some issues, so I just decided to just stick with Canada for now. And it won't be 15 ounces, it'll be 10. We'll make it a little bit more accurate. so that it's more accurate for calculating Canada, because I have that as calculated. And it's just a regular package, and I don't know. I don't usually get too crazy accurate on these things. So I have it can be combined for shipping discounts, but I don't know why these are checked because I don't have anything set up. And then insurance, I just put included because I basically self-insure. So if something happens, I just cover it. If it was a huge extra, I still would cover it because I'm just used to doing that on all the other platforms where insurance is the seller's responsibility. So I just consider it as a cost of doing business. So it'll go right into my shop at the regular price. And then I have this checked so that it can be featured on my homepage, which, as you could see, is this scrolling banner up at the top. And you can edit this scrolling banner. You can have the background be different colors and things like that. So it will, once this is not on here, I just have everything go up there. So everything, ends up getting featured on the scrolling banner up top. So I just leave that checked. And then what next? I just leave everything in my shop forever. So then you can click something in order to have it save all shipping defaults. And basically then these things will stay the same for the next item. So I think we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and hit add item. Okay, so I've added 10 items so far this month. Remember, again, I'm shooting for at least 15 so that I get the $25 credit back to my shop for the maintenance fee. Now they're saying I might have some spelling errors. So Torino is not a word that they recognize. You can add it to your dictionary and then they won't give you this alert anymore anytime. I generally just ignore it. And then you get a jewelry warning because we didn't list it in the jewelry category, but it has the word earring in the title. So they're just double checking that you knew what you were doing. Okay. And then down here you can put it on Pinterest, or you can tweet about it, or put it on Facebook, or email it to somebody, or whatever. Okay. And then we go back and look at our shop. And there it is, right on our front page, okay? And then I don't know how long it takes to get, I'm assuming it would take a little bit longer, at least a few minutes to get to the today's arrivals. I haven't really watched that completely. Oh, there it is. It's actually really fast. So there it is. As you can see, I had already had the image processed, and so it shows up in today's arrivals right when I make the listing. Okay, so like I said, it's all up to you how you want to do that. So that's there. And so if you subscribe and want to see my what sold videos in the future, then you can follow and see if this mushroom earring holder sells anytime soon. Hopefully it does. But anyway, that's it. So again, leave any questions or comments in the section down below, and I will do my best to answer them. Hopefully it's not too convoluted. It can be kind of a learning curve when you first start. Just, the picture processing and all that kind of stuff is a little bit different than other sites. But really, once you get the hang of it, and once things are set up on your site, then it's just, the listing actually goes like super fast because a lot of the stuff is just already set up in your listing. You don't have to sit there thinking up a million keywords and tags to put in your listing. You just give the information, add the pictures, pick out a few different, kind of item specific type things, and then you're good to go. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this information was helpful, and we will talk to you again soon.